My entitled wife said, "I only married you because you were the safe option." I replied, "Thanks for that." Then I transferred the savings, left a note, and disappeared. When I returned, she, 34, found out my wife of 6 years, Clara, 32, was having an affair. The discovery wasn't dramatic. It was quiet. Just her laptop left open on the kitchen counter while she was in the shower. A chat window minimized but not closed. A man named Julian. I clicked on it. I don't know why. Maybe I already knew. It was all there. A year's worth of messages. A year of my life turning out to be a carefully managed stage play. They had plans, trips, a future. He called her his muse. She called him her soulmate. I felt the blood drain from my face. My hand started to shake, so I gripped the edge of the granite countertop to steady myself. The of the refrigerator suddenly felt deafening. For a second, I thought I was going to be sick right there on the floor. I didn't feel rage. Not yet. It was something colder, heavier. A profound, crushing clarity. All the late nights at her marketing job, her sudden obsession with an indie band I'd never heard of, the way her thumb would hover over her phone screen, it all snapped into focus. I scrolled up, my movements stiff, robotic. I needed to see the beginning, and then I found the line that stopped my heart. They were talking about me. He sounds so predictable. He is. That's the point. I only married him because he was the safe option. Stable. He was a good starter home, but you, Julian, you're the beachfront mansion. A starter home. A sensible low-risk asset, something you use until you can afford what you really want. The sickness in my stomach curdled into something else, something still and quiet logic. It was a defense mechanism. I see that now the emotional reality was too vast, too catastrophic. So my brain did what it does best. It built a wall. It made a plan. She thought I was predictable, safe. Fine. She had no idea how dangerous safe could be when it decided to stop playing the game. I didn't confront her. There would be no screaming match. No chance for her to deploy the tears and gaslighting I'd seen her use on others. My response had to be as methodical as her deception. First, my job. I'm a systems architect. I work fully remotely and I just come off a brutal 3-month project. I had a fat stack of PTO saved up. I logged into my work portal and submitted a request for 4 weeks off effective immediately. Reason. Personal family matter. Vague enough. It would be approved by the automated system before my manager even saw it. Next, finances. Our joint savings account. The house down payment. Our house. I logged into the bank. I transferred the daily maximum to my personal checking account. The rest would have to wait for the morning. I set a reminder on my phone, 8 a.m., call the bank. Then I packed just my essentials, my work laptops and hard drives, clothes, my grandfather's watch, the books stacked on my nightstand, the things that were just mine. Her entire life, her designer clothes, her expensive lotions and potions, her curated collection of antique teacups, I left it all untouched. Finally, the note. A single post-it. I stuck it to her laptop screen right over their chat. You called me a starter home. Thanks for the honesty. Consider this my down payment back. The rest is for your mansion. I took my keys, walked out the door, and got in my car. I turned my phone off, threw it in the glove compartment, and drove. I had a cheap burner phone I bought for travel still in its box. I'd set it up later. I didn't go to a friend's. I didn't get a hotel. I just drove south for 6 hours until the signs for a small coastal town I remembered from a family trip years ago started appearing. I found a sleepy motel with a weekly rate and a vacancy sign flickering in the salt air. I paid for 2 weeks in cash. For the first time in 6 years, I was completely off the grid. Unpredictable. And I knew with absolute certainty that the chaos I'd left behind was just getting started. Update 1. It's been 3 weeks. My vacation has been a strange mix of numb productivity and gut-wrenching anxiety. I set up my workstation in the corner of this cheap motel room. The Wi-Fi is surprisingly decent. I've been logging on for a few hours a day, clearing out backlogged emails, making it look like I'm just on a very low-key working holiday. My boss hasn't blinked. The quiet work has kept me from going insane. My real informant to the world I left behind is my best friend, Mark. I called him on the burner phone after 2 days of silence, just so someone knew I hadn't driven into a ditch. The first week was exactly what I predicted. Clara went into full worried wife mode. Calls to my friends, my parents, weeping. How could I just disappear? She was so worried. My mom, who has always adored Clara, bought it hook, line, and sinker. When I didn't magically reappear, the narrative shifted. Mark said she started telling people I was unstable, having some kind of breakdown. My own sister called Mark, asking if I was a danger to myself. That one hurt. The money was the real trigger. On Monday morning at 8:01 a.m., I was on the phone with the bank. I got the rest of our joint savings transferred. It took some doing, but it was a joint account and I was on it. Apparently, Clara called them around noon. Mark heard from a mutual friend who works there that she caused a massive scene, screaming, accusations. They had to ask her to leave. Now for the complications. The lease. I emailed our landlord, explained I was moving out and wanted to initiate the break clause. His reply wasn't as understanding as I'd hoped. He was a businessman. He reminded me that the lease is a joint agreement. Both tenants are liable for the full rent until the end of the term or until the break penalty is paid and a new tenant is found. He didn't care about our personal drama. He just wanted his money. So for now, my name is still on the hook and the biggest snag, Julian. The beachfront mansion has some serious structural issues. Turns out he rents a tiny room in a shared loft, and his art is a collection of unsold canvases gathering dust. He's a bartender with delusions of grandeur. Mark did some light social media stalking. The guy is a professional charmer and completely broke. Clara is trapped. She has no money, an apartment she can't possibly afford on her own salary, and a soulmate who probably can't afford to split an Uber, let alone a security deposit. The emotionally raw part came last night. A string of texts from my mom, forwarded by Mark. Clara had called her hysterical. My mom is now convinced I'm the monster. She made a mistake, son. A terrible one. But you've left her with nothing. This isn't you. Don't throw 6 years away out of cruelty. Reading that, sitting alone in the sterile room smelling of bleach and sea salt, I didn't feel cold or logical. I just felt tired. It's easy to be the architect of a perfect revenge when you're just moving pieces on a board. It's a lot harder when the pieces are your own family. I'm going back next week, not to reconcile, but because this needs a confrontation, this needs an ending. And I have to be the one to write it. Update 2. I'm staying at Mark's place. The first thing I did after getting back was turn on my old phone. It was like opening a floodgate. A cascade of notifications, voicemails, texts, missed calls, a digital monument to Clara's spiraling panic. I sent her a single text. The apartment, tomorrow, noon. We need to talk about the lease. She agreed instantly. I got there early. The place felt alien. Her things were everywhere, but the soul was gone. It looked like a museum of a life I used to have. I sat on the couch we bought together after arguing for a week about fabric swatches. I waited. She walked in at noon on the dot. She was dressed up, makeup perfect, the wronged wife beautiful in her tragedy. It was a performance and I was the intended audience. You look, she started, her voice soft and hesitant. You look okay. I am. I replied. No heat, no sarcasm, just a fact that threw her. She needed me to be a wreck. She needed me to be angry. My calm was a language she didn't understand. She launched into a speech she'd clearly been rehearsing. It was all there. The apologies, the terrible mistake, the talk of how she was lost, and Julian had taken advantage. She never once said I cheated. It was always couched in passive vague terms. It was something that happened to her. I let her finish when she was done looking at me with wide teary eyes. I just nodded. So that's the story you're telling people. I said, it's good. A little thin on personal responsibility, but the emotional beats are there. The mask cracked. I'm pouring my heart out to you and you're being an asshole. No. I said, leaning forward. My voice was quiet. I'm the audience member who read the book before seeing the movie. I know the real script. I read the chat logs, Clara. All of them. She physically recoiled. That was the first genuine reaction I'd seen. You weren't supposed to see that. She whispered as if that were the actual crime. I know. The safe option wasn't supposed to look under the hood. He was just supposed to keep driving. Right. Then came the tears I knew were coming. The real ones, the ugly, desperate kind. What am I supposed to do? She wailed. You took all the money. The landlord says I have to pay or he'll evict me. I have nothing. You have Julian, I said evenly. Your soulmate. Julian is, it's complicated. She sputtered. He's broke, I stated. I know, it's not that complicated. Her head snapped up, fury replacing the tears. You have no right to. I have every right. You made my life your business, so I made your affair mine. I stood up. Here's the deal. I'm going to my lawyer's office this afternoon. We're filing for divorce. I'm citing adultery. It's going to be messy. You can't prove anything. She shot back. A year of time-stamped chat logs downloaded to a hard drive currently in a safety deposit box says, I can. Now the lease, I'm willing to pay the break penalty to get my name off it. That gives you until the end of next month to figure out your next move. Her face was a mask of disbelief and rage. And what about the money? The savings? That was ours. She screamed. This was the moment. The reason I came back. Actually, Clara, it wasn't. And this is the part you really need to listen to. Do you remember that prenup you signed? The one you called unromantic and insulting. The one my dad's lawyer insisted on the color drained from her face. I remember you didn't want to read it. You just signed it. It has a clause in case of a divorce initiated due to infidelity, assets are divided based on direct contribution. Since I contributed about 90% of the funds in that savings account, and I have the pay stubs to prove it. Well, you can do the math. I didn't say my lawyer has already filed. I didn't need the cheap drama. The truth was colder, harder. The process was just beginning, and it was going to be a long, slow grind. My lawyer will be in touch with yours. I said, and walked to the door. You're a bastard. She shrieked at my back. A cold, empty bastard. I paused at the door, but didn't turn around. No, I said, my voice barely above a whisper. I was a starter home. Now I'm just empty. Final update. It's been 8 months. There's no neat bow on this. No triumphant victory. Just the aftermath. The divorce was hell. Just as I predicted, it was a slow, expensive, and soul-crushing grind. Clara hired a shark who tried every trick in the book. They contested the prenup claiming I'd coerced her. They tried to paint me as emotionally abusive, using my quiet nature as proof of my cold manipulation. My own sister testified on her behalf, talking about how worried she was for my mental stability after I disappeared. That was a new kind of pain. Every accusation cost me money and legal fees to refute. Every delay was another pound of flesh. In the end, after months of bleeding money and sanity, the judge upheld the prenup. The chat logs were undeniable. There was no grand cinematic moment, just a quiet ruling in a stuffy courtroom. I kept the bulk of the savings, but God, the cost. Clara had to move back in with her parents. Julian, the beachfront mansion vanished the second her financial situation became clear. According to Mark, she had a complete breakdown, lost her job because she just stopped showing up. She's a ghost. A cautionary tale people whisper about at parties. And honestly, it brings me no joy. I just feel an immense hollow sadness for the 6 years we wasted. She built her entire identity around a lifestyle, and when the money was gone, she collapsed. My life isn't perfect. It's not a happy ending. It's a quiet one. My relationship with my mom is healing slowly. She apologized after the court proceedings laid everything bare, but there's a scar there. A scar of her doubting me when I needed her most. My sister and I don't speak. I think I'm the villain in her story, and maybe from her perspective, I am. I sold the couch. I sold the dining table. I sold every piece of furniture we picked out together. I moved into a smaller, simpler apartment in a different part of the city. I've been in therapy. It's helping. Helping me understand why I was so willing to be the safe option. Why I ignored the 1,000 tiny red flags she waved for years. I was complicit in my own invisibility. The other day, I got an email from an old colleague of ours, someone I hadn't spoken to in years. She'd heard through the grapevine what happened. She wrote, "I know what it's like to have your world fall apart. It sounds like you didn't just walk away. You had to amputate to survive. I hope you're healing." That single email, that one small act of understanding from a near stranger felt more like a victory than the judge's ruling or the bank statement. It's not a story about winning. It's a story about surviving a demolition. I'm standing in the rubble of the life I thought I had, and I'm slowly, methodically clearing it away. It's hard, quiet work, but the land is mine, and I get to decide what to build on it next.